Hey everyone, Dustin here from Vintage King, back for the third installment of our introductory series to the Apollo Twin X and X4 interfaces from Universal Audio. Now, if you haven't seen the first two videos, what are you doing? Click the link in the description to watch us track a live band and capture killer drum sounds in the Vintage King Audio Tech Shop with the Apollo X4. Now I'm gonna hand it off to my man Brian Riley so we can get this track mixed together.
Hey everyone, welcome to my home studio here in Ferndale, Michigan. Today we're going to be mixing the song Far From by the Olivia Millerton Band, which was recorded with the Apollo X4 in our previous two videos. In addition to being my master monitor controller, the Twin X is also expanding the DSP of my rack mount Apollo interface and is now Thunderbolt 3 compatible. So let's jump into it. Alright, so starting with the vocal, the first thing that I did was put a little bit of the precision de-esser on there just to take away some of the sibilance in her vocal. I followed that with the SSL channel strip, and primarily what I'm using this for is EQ, and so I'm taking off some of the low end just to clear up some of the muddiness from her vocal. I'm adding some high end. Olivia loves the presence that's in the high frequency of her voice, so I'm making that stick out. And then I'm using some of the low band EQs just to take away some of the boxiness and some of the rumble that was happening in the room. I'm also using just a touch, which actually isn't engaging, of the SSL compressor. And when you engage this compressor, it actually adds a little bit of gain and helps make the vocal pop just a little bit more. And then lastly, that is followed by the LA2A, which is compressing pretty hard just to keep the vocal sitting in one nice spot. And then I'm sending the overall vocal mix into a EMT 140 plate, which is then followed by a little bit of EQ, which is just taking off some of the low frequency. And let's hear how that sounds.
These people turn to monsters with eyes black as coal, and their voices are an unfamiliar hum. This town is full of terrors, down every road I go, and I know I've got to make a new place, new face, my home. Oh, oh.
So after I got the vocals dialed in, I moved over to the piano, which we recorded mono direct in to the Apollo X4. So on that track, I added the SSL channel strip, which is adding some high frequency at 8K, because I wanted to make those twinkly notes pop through a little bit more. I'm rolling off just a little bit at 80 and a high pass filter up to 200, just to make it a little more clear overall. That is then followed by the Ocean Way plugin, which is in mono to stereo, just because I wanted to make that mono dry keyboard sound like it was more recorded in a big live room. And then in the beginning of the song, you'll hear a little bit of delay with a modulation after it, just to kind of emphasize those twinkly notes he's doing in the beginning of the song. So on that, I use the Korg SDD3000, which is then followed by the tri-chorus. So after getting the piano dialed in, I moved over to the acoustic. It's again using the trusty SSL channel strip here. It's a pretty heavy EQ happening on this. So high pass filter going up to about 140 or so, taking off quite a bit, around 60, because since we were in a big warehouse room, there was just a little bit of ambience and rumble happening. I took out some of the low mids, pretty broad. Olivia was playing with her nails, so you can kind of hear that a little bit on the strings. So I just took out, that's a tiny bit of 4.5K. And then I'm adding back in a couple dB at 1.5 just to add some cut through the mix overall. And then that is followed by an LA3 compressor, which is just kind of gluing all of the transients into place. And then I'm sending that out really only in the beginning of the song to that EMT 140, which is just creating this ambience in the beginning of the song. And then following the EMT 140 is the SSL channel strip with a high pass filter at 300. And that's just to remove some low frequency from swimming around the mix. So next I moved on to the drums, which were recorded with 4 mics in the warehouse of our Vintage King Audio Tech Shop. On the kick channel, I added the SSL channel strip again. This is taking out pretty aggressively, right around 300-400 cycles or so. And then I'm adding just a little bit of knock at 80. And then I'm following that with the trusty EQP 1A Pultec, which is giving me a little bit of kick at 60. On the snare track, since I tracked that through the API Vision channel strip, I was already adding some API EQ, which was at 3K and 5K. But for the mix, I seemed like I wanted just a little bit more cut on the track overall. So I put a little boost at 1.5 and a little boost at 7K. And I also wanted a little bit of body, so a 4 dB boost also at 200. In the beginning of the song, I'm playing side stick, and then it goes to the snare drum when the chorus hits. So up until the snare kicks in, I'm sending the side stick through the EMT 140, and then I'm automating that down once the snare kicks in. On the overhead channel, I put the SSL channel strip on there. I'm using the high pass filter up to 200 because I didn't really want the kick drum to be coming through the overhead track, but I still wanted a little bit of weight and what was happening in the room from the snare drum. And then I'm also boosting a little bit at 8K just to make the cymbals and the stick on the drums cut through a little bit more. And then lastly, our room microphone. Not too much EQ happening here. I'm only using the filter again just to take away some of the rumble from the kick drum. And that is being automated to where in the beginning of the song, you're not hearing too much of the room. When the chorus kicks in and you're hearing the overall big room tone, I automate that up so you're hearing more natural ambience from the room. So once I got the drums dialed in, then I added in the electric bass, which was also recorded direct in to the rear panel of the X4. And very simple, all I did was use the stock setting on the Voice of God, which just adds an overall body and dimension to the bass, really filling up the low end, and then just use the fader to put it into place. All of the instruments and effects are then being bussed into an auxiliary track, which is my mix bus. And on that track, it's very simple. I use the curve bender, and the only thing I'm doing with this is adding a high pass filter at 20, and that's just tightening up the low end just a little bit more. And then I use the Brainworks V3 EQ, and I'm only using that for width. So that's everything that's involved in the mix. So without further ado, let's hear how it sounds.
Broken bottles on blue carpet, broken body on the floor. I'm not lost, I know exactly where I am. I just don't wanna be here anymore. Spinning till I'm far enough away. Everything that I'm so damn afraid of. These people have turned to monsters with eyes black as coal, and their voices are an unfamiliar hum. This town is full of terrors down every road face, my oh, 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 oh.
All right, so that about wraps it up. Thanks so much for checking out our 3-part series of the Universal Audio Twin X and X4 interfaces. And if you have any questions at all about these interfaces, any other Universal Audio products, feel free to hit us up at vintageking.com or reach out to your audio consultant. See you next time.